to the best you nation with your boys Finn and Adler. How's it going?
Hey. It's going pretty good. I'm not as fired up with you. I think I need my second cup of coffee. But just hanging in tough. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. I got the day off today. We wanted to get an episode knocked out and make sure
Yeah,
we're on top of our game here. We had a really good episode this past week, and we're continuing on our journey with the season to kind of take a focus on some of the episodes, the top 10 plus episodes that we have done in the past. Um, but other than that, we're going to the U.S. versus Brazil game.
Brazil.
Brazil, that's right. Where just we've been in the gym and doing Apple work, the Apple Fitness Plus. I have that, and I want to
Nice.
tell you, just want to share this with you real quick. It's hilarious. I totally underestimated it. We did a full body workout last week. Just tried it for the first time. It was really neat because you can
What
connect the Apple Watch, you can keep up with
What
the
do you mean by
stats and stuff.
underestimated?
Well, oh god. Well, basically, I was like, all right, we'll see what they're gonna do. We don't have the weights. We're gonna buy some weights, little small dumbbells, so we could do the exercises because I think the max is like 15. I'm like, oh, this is just Apple Fitness. This is gonna be easy, 30 minutes, whatever. I'm like, man, totally underestimated the hit session. We did a 30-minute hit
Fitness is no
session.
joke.
Man, the first 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is good. Man, the trainer had us jumping around, doing all this crazy exercise. I'm like, how did they come up with this stuff to really burn off calories and energy? And I'm like, wow, this was just literally insane. Then we did a 20-minute leg workout, which I thought that was like, all right, what are they going to do this time? Because clearly they figured out how to whoop our butts in the hit session. So Coach Kyle comes in. He's like, all right, here we go. Is what we're going to do. And he had us doing exercises where, dude, the next like 3 days afterwards, I could barely come up the stairs like I usually do. I'm like, ugh, oh, like sitting down on a toilet took forever. Getting up off the toilet took forever. Getting into my car took forever. Like I looked like the typical grandfather out there in public, and it was just weird as I mean, that's all I'm gonna say. And then we did a 10-minute core exercise, and I absolutely hate core. I don't like doing core, so I know I got to do it. I know it's important. It's vital, dude. 10 minutes felt like 10 years. It was brutal. It was brutal, and I'm like, why? Why did I underestimate Apple? But Apple Fitness Plus was a great workout experience. We did that, and it felt great. And we're gonna go to the gym today. Well, are we going to the gym today? I'm going to soccer game. Maybe we'll squeeze a gym session in. I went for a run the other day. Cassandra thought I was insane for that because it was
Your
hot as
legs were
balls
sore.
outside.
Oh,
No, it
okay.
was just hot. It was like 100
Yeah.
degrees outside, and I'm out here running a mile and a half or so in Milwaukee and stuff. But all that being said, we are less than 100 days away from getting married and, doing everything I can. I slacked off these last 4 or 5 months being, consistent with our gym sessions and not necessarily focusing too much on being vegan, more vegetarian. But
This is the perfect day. This is the perfect time for you to do it. 90 days hard. Oh,
well, yeah. So, well, 7 days hard plus an additional 20. But we are
well, I
drinking a
mean, so
crap ton of water. Is it a
but
90 day
that's what I'm saying.
challenge?
If you, it's a 90-day challenge. It's 3 months. So
Okay.
this would be the perfect time to do it. Like, granted, I don't know if you did your measurements and all that stuff
I
already.
did.
Um,
My scale that I have is a very intuitive,
no, I'm
very
talking about measurements for your tux.
no, not yet. That
Yeah, so
doesn't
that's
get
what I'm
done until
saying.
like a month out.
Because they'll probably do like alterations soon. So you can literally do or not 90, 75 hard. So you could do 75 hard, but then extend it to 90 days. And then for those 10 days before your wedding, kind of taper, relax, kind of get yourself. Because I know, at least for me, for those 75 days, my body is sore. It's just
Yeah,
everything hits.
it was a crap
But
ton of water. Going
yeah,
vegan again, so it's been a really good couple weeks, man. We're trucking, we're getting through stuff, and then you know we're living each day by its day. We're staying busy with work, getting ready for a couple big milestones this year. But
Yep.
nonetheless, we're here today to record an episode to go backwards in time, but to come forward in time. And it's funny that you mentioned this off air. You had said, "How did we get Cassandra on the episode in the past?" So for all y'all who don't know, Cassandra, I don't know what we did, how we got Cassandra on the show, but she wrote down these topics. I don't remember if you remember this. She wrote down all the topics that we had come up with and put them on a piece of paper, put
Had
them
it in a
inside this little
bowl.
bowl, and we had to
Yep.
choose from the bowl the topic for the week. And so that today's episode, going back 2 years, was about not sweating the small stuff.
Small stuff.
So this time around, I listened to the episode at 2 times speed. So it was like that basically for 40 minutes. What do you remember from that episode to that at that time that today you probably would have had a conversation with 2 years ago Adler about that episode?
So okay, I'm going to actually uncover something because I actually remember when I was listening back to it, I was kind of remembering where I was at, like emotionally at that time. And I was in an emotional state because there was and I can speak about it freely now because I'm engaged, I'm happy, I'm good. So there's no like animosity. But at the time, it was fresh, right? So I had been talking to somebody, and then things looked promising, and then it just kind of puttered out at the last second. And I was just like, I remember thinking to myself, okay, in the grand scheme of things, I can't sweat this because it's just not part of the plan. It is what it is. I can't get mad at it because, you know, this is because I think this, I know we were picking stuff out of the hat, but I felt like this was just like, at the time, it was just the most applicable thing because even though things didn't turn out how I anticipated or hoped, I was comfortable knowing that there was a bigger plan in the works, and I just had to be patient. And I understood that. Even then, I was upset, but not upset to the point where I was just because I know that, and this is the tricky thing, and this is for all you young men out there. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of like some wisdom from an old guy. This is advice, okay? When a person doesn't want you or is not interested in dating you or interested in pursuing a relationship with you, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Don't start treating that person like they're less than or they're scum or calling them names or doing all that stuff. That's immature. That doesn't make any sense for you to do that. And it actually speaks more on your character if you're able to just walk away and say nothing. Because if you walk away and say nothing, then more than likely, if you actually just are patient, they might potentially come back. They might not, but they might potentially come back because of how you handled yourself on the way out. Because it's not about how things start, it's about how things end. And I
Mhm.
remember saying that you can't sweat the small things in life because you can't control extenuating factors. You can't control if somebody wants to be with you. You can't control if somebody cheats on you. You can't control if somebody leaves. But what you can control is how you react to those things, how you hold and how you handle yourself in those times of discomfort, stress, depression. The way that you handle yourself is the lens in which everybody else will view you. So you have to be very, very mindful of that. And you can't allow yourself to act out a character, call people outside of their names just because you feel some type of way. That's immature. And quite frankly, you need to grow up.
Yeah.
That's
I
just,
mean,
it has to be said because I know you've heard it before too, or seen it, or had friends that had something not go their way and then they just threw a fit all the way on the way out.
yes. And you make a valid point, man. And the fact that like most people have a hard time wrapping their mind around the circumstances that happen to them. I mean, I think one that we could talk about, and like you kind of mentioned this already, but it's like for us men, I think for women too, we go through relationships, we go in and out sometimes, and we try to figure out how do I improve myself for this person, but we we dive so deep into things and overthink things, and we get into this like self conversation about how, you know, this could have gone this way, I could have done this differently, this person could have been different in this way, we could have compromised here, we could have been. And the thing is, and I was listening, like this is what's funny, because listening to the episode, and I just remember we were talking about like work, and I was talking about an example about Johnny at work was, you know, he's there, or he or she's there, whatever, and Johnny or Joanna, whoever I use as an example, to is going to be at work and is going to say something to you, because that's what people do. People are going to be in your space and in your environment that is going to trigger you, because
Yep.
they're not, it's really out of, it's our responsibility to be in control of our thoughts and our emotions based off of the environment that we are faced. People who say things to you, it's not their fault that you become upset. They are doing whatever it is that they think is right. Whether it is right or wrong in your eyes, you have to be in control. You have to be responsible for the way that you respond. So one of the things that I was kind of thinking about, like 2 years later now, you know, I'm engaged. Um, well, I actually, yeah, that was the year that we weren't engaged yet, but that was the year that we went to New York City for the week or so, and that's, you know, when the whole proposal
I
happened.
think
And
this was like a this might have been like a February of 2022. I think
let me
we
see.
were.
I think it was actually a little bit. It was May 9th that
It was
this
May.
episode came out. Yeah, it came out May 9th, 2022. And one of the things that I kept listening to and hearing what we were talking about is that, you know, when you sweat the small stuff, I feel like oftentimes we work ourselves up. We allow a bad moment in time, a small section of our day, to ruin the entire day. And looking back on what we were talking about then, obviously this is a little bit more recent compared to our last week's episode, where the best you was like our literally our second episode of the entire podcast. I
Yeah.
think that as I've gotten older, or as I've progressed 2 years into, you know, where we are, I have become more aware of not really caring what other people are thinking. And the reason why it's important to do this, and again, this is a practice that I've been implementing into my day to day, is that when you worry about what other people are thinking, or you're worrying about what other people are saying about you, we start to feed that energy. We make these assumptions. We're allowing our emotions and our thoughts to be tied up to hypotheticals. Sometimes they're not even real. They're just things that we create in our mind because, oh, this person may have said this, so it makes sense because they're behaving a certain way. So when we stress the small stuff, you know, I think that what we do very well is we get ourselves in this hyped up mindset, and we actually could lash out on this person. We can respond irrationally to the environment. I mean, we may slow down on our productivity, whether it's at work or outside of work. And I just think that, me personally, okay, one of the hardest things for me is I like to make sure people are good. And it I'm learning that being concerned about other people, it's not that I don't care about people, it's being overly concerned about other people's problems or things that are going on in their life. It overwhelms me, and it takes over what I got going on in my own life and the things that I'm focused on. And it's because, you know, you want people to be better, you want people to work on themselves, and it's because naturally, from a coaching perspective and a place of someone who wants you to be better, because it's what we do here, it just, you have to learn, and you said it a little bit ago, just let it go. You have to let go, because you are not going to be able to make the horse drink the water. Eventually that horse is going to figure it out, right? And so when you recognize that there are things in your life that you have no control over, right? You can't, I mean, you can worry about it, but when you worry about things, you are forgetting what's going on in the present moment. There's nothing you can do about the future. There's nothing you could do about the past. The only thing you can do is worry about what's going on in the moment. And so when you're worrying about things are happening tomorrow, and this is even talked about in the Bible, when you're worrying about what's going on tomorrow, your entire shift and your focus goes away from what's happening in this very moment. Because what happens now can actually affect your future. So if you're thinking
Right.
about something that's not even really happening yet or has
Yeah.
happened yet, then you are actively in you're actively investing and manifesting the possibility of, let's say, oh my gosh, I'm late on this bill. Oh my gosh, but you have an assignment that's due. Your energy and your mindset now is focusing on this bill that's due tomorrow. But guess what? Whether you pay for it or not, your day is going to continue. Tomorrow is going to most likely happen, and you have to be able to overcome and bypass what's stressing you out. It's easier said than done. So I guess the way that I look at it is that I have gotten better at work, not letting the Johnnies and the Joannes at work, affect me as a
It's
person
gonna be
because
really sad if there's an actual Johnny or Joanne at work. That's gonna be like, why do you hate me, Finn?
oh, no, I don't hate anybody, but I understand what you're saying. But it's the concept of, at the end of the day, I'm learning that people are going to do what people do. They're going to say what they want to say. And no matter where you go, it doesn't have to be work. I know we bring up work because it's just an easy segue to use, but no matter if you're in public, cutting you off and while you're driving, and you drive a more fancy, more expensive car than me, and you're willing to risk your Maserati to go right through the intersection without really acknowledging that there are people that are coming down the road that have the right of way. You know, at the end of the day, I get the opportunity to get up, make my bed. I get the opportunity to go out and go to a job that I love. It's got its challenges, right? So I think that going back and listening to this episode specifically, I think, like you said, you were more going through this like season of your life where things were difficult. I think
Well,
at
so now, because I thought it was like in February of that year, but I think I was taking because this was in May, so that would mean that I was using that scenario that happened earlier in the
it was
year.
still pretty fresh. I mean, it was only
Yeah,
like 3 months
still,
later,
but still, it's just kind of like because I was just thinking, I was like, why did I make that point then? I said, okay, well, it was still kind of on the forefront of the brain because
right?
it's rejection isn't like you know rejection isn't the easiest thing to accept. Like rejection, um, it takes a little bit of maturity to be like, okay, well, this didn't work out, and I feel embarrassed, and I feel rejected, and I feel unwanted. But it's okay, even though it didn't work out. I still have so many other things that are going for me, and I just have to focus on my positives instead of my negatives. Because sometimes you can overanalyze situations and say, oh, well, I did this wrong, and I did this wrong, and I did this wrong, and I did this wrong. But the truth is, sometimes in life, things just don't work out. And it doesn't mean that you did anything specifically wrong. It just means that just things don't work out. And that's okay. Um, that's one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn in 2022 is that it just didn't work out and it's okay. And I think to your point, because you brought up earlier when you were talking about, well, I don't really sweat the small stuff because I don't really care about like, whatever you could say doesn't rattle me anymore because I'm focused on work and this, that, and the third. And now I know that we have like the don't sweat the small stuff. That's like one of the things that we both agree on. But I think 2 years later, don't sweat the small stuff has kind of tweaked in me where I don't care. You could say whatever you have to say about me. It is what it is. It's not going to change or determine who I am as a person. But I will say this now when, especially now I'm engaged and I'm, about to build my life with somebody, it's I get a little bit sensitive now, and I do sweat the smaller things. Like if we go out and a guy starts making vulgar comments, then now I have an issue. Versus if you were directing those comments at me, I don't care. I'm just going to keep moving. But now I have an issue because now you're talking about somebody I care for, somebody I love. And I go into protective mode, like, hey, look, like I'm not gonna go into a confrontation mode, like, oh, I'm gonna fight you. No, I'm just gonna, hey, I move her over, away from wherever the comments are coming from, and it's like, okay, just stay with me. And if it escalates to something where it's like getting closer, then that's when you kind of address it. But I'm starting to realize that I don't sweat the small stuff when it comes to me specifically, but I do worry about small stuff when it comes to the person that I care about because I want her happy. I don't want her to have to go through terrible experiences or be called certain things just because somebody can't control their impulse to say the first thought that comes to their mind. And I will say that has been more of a struggle, more of a battle in most recent years because I don't care what you say about it. But now I have to be a little bit more mindful about the other person. And, my fiance, like, I care about her and I want to, protect her, I want to keep her safe. And, those are the things that are my priorities. And largely, she's with me because I prioritize those things. And if there's no element of safety or protection there, then I know that at some point she's going to look at me like, well, what are you doing? I don't feel safe. I don't feel protected. And you'd much rather feel protected and safe than be in a situation where you just feel like you're in absolute danger at all times.
Yeah. I like there's a couple things that you said. I just want to highlight it. And it's the concept of developing this like mindset of the importance, right? So we both are engaged men. We both have a significant other in our life that we are prioritizing, that we spend time with, that we learn and grow with, and we do everything with. And we realize, and I agree with you. I feel like my shift um, over the years, I would say it's even been longer than 2 years, because back before when I was single, I would care how other people thought about me, and I'd sweat things, and it just, man, it just like be so stressed, and you'd fondle with all these kind of like tasks that you had, these deadlines that you had. And one of the things that I feel like you mentioned is the importance and understanding that you have to sometimes refocus yourself on what is important, what is getting your attention, right? So prioritizing your energy. Where is your energy going? You always say something, and I love when you say this, is that time is currency. And you always mention
Yep.
that because, just like when you get $100, you have a choice of what you do with the $100. You can go spend it all at one time, you can use some of it, you can save it all. And time is something that you'll never get back. You can always get $100 back, right? But time is something that once you use it, it's gone. It's never like yesterday's time, never going to get that. So when we are aware of the important people, the priorities that we have with the important people in our lives, I think it's really, really important that we also develop a sense of resilience, right? And the reason why I say this is because oftentimes we want to have this mindset of, oh, we're ready for whatever comes at me. I'm ready for whatever is going to breach my um, strong ability to respond. Like, I'm not going to respond emotionally, but sometimes we fall short because we're human, and we do end up having those minor setbacks. But developing or cultivating the ability to have a better bounce back, finding a way to rekindle that mindset of, okay, this is going to happen. These things are going to happen. And when you can shift your mindset, it actually allows you to be a little bit more focused. It lets you understand what you have at hand. I think we become very narrow-minded when we become more worried and focused on individual situations and like things that we sweat. I think majority of people out there from a couple standpoint would say that finances is one of the ones that most people have a hard time sitting down and talking about, but they sweat it because we have this going on. We got to take care of this. We have to. We don't have kids, so I can't really say, oh, we got to worry about paying for soccer practice, things of that nature. But We do
Not
have a
yet.
wedding we have to pay for.
Yeah.
We have different deadlines for, bills throughout the month that are due. And so it's like, I personally, I have learned that it is okay that and I'm not encouraging to miss a bill, but it's okay to make sure you have it in the back of your mind and catch up to it when you can. I'm not saying go 30 plus days late. If you know you're getting paid the following week, you got less than 7 days you get paid, prioritize, write a note, jot down a note, because at the end of the day, you got to keep going on. You have to keep living your life. You can't just sit and wrap your whole entire week until that specific bill is paid, because things get tight. Sometimes you hit the struggle bus, but you hit the struggle bus, you get off the struggle bus whenever you can, and remind yourself setbacks will happen. Imperfections are always around us. You're going to find that you have to set your goals, set your mindset, and remind yourself. And I keep saying remind yourself because at the end of the day, you said it earlier off air about something else we are talking about, but the world's not going to save you. You have to literally, I laugh now when these kids are, oh my God, life is so hard. Oh, and it's like, yeah, to be a kid again. We're in such a rush to become adults, and adulting sucks, man. Some days you're just like, man, I miss just getting up, going to the pantry, getting cereal, making breakfast, still being my
Watch
PJs,
cartoons.
watch SpongeBob. Like, it just, that was, and then we thought, oh man, I gotta fold laundry, I gotta wash dishes, which I still don't really care about, but I know it has to be done. And it's like, who's gonna do it? Cassandra's not gonna do it by herself.
Yeah.
The thing is that we have to learn, and not even necessarily learn, just finding a way to embody a more approachable mindset and recognizing that if you allow small things to stack up against you, it's like bricks. You take enough bricks, you build a wall. Okay, you end up building a house, you build a skyscraper. So if you tackle one obstacle at a time, and when I say tackle, I'm not talking about worrying about it, stressing about it. Find a solution to the problem. Like, I know for me, like, just as an example, we have a wedding that we're paying for. We want to pay for the full wedding, take care of it out of our own pocket. So what do? I could sit here and work my 3 days and not get overtime and not have a little extra cash in my pocket. Or I work a couple extra days a week, knowing that I got to make those sacrifices for a couple months, knowing that that will help take care of the finances. And that part right there is shifting the mindset of, oh my God, we have this much money left to pay for the wedding. What am I going to do? Oh my goodness. When really, in retrospect, it is only a small section of our life that we have to worry about something like that. Because once we're married, we get each other for the rest of our lives. Again, people will say, oh, well, you should have done this. Okay. You don't know the big picture that we have, right? But I think that, you have to have a solution mindset, a resolution mindset. Focus on the big picture. We're getting married. In order for us to have funds, I got to work more. Bottom line. Or I could sit at home, fiddle my thumbs, bite my nails, and freak out and stress about the small stuff and be like, oh man, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to? Because at the end of the day, if I don't do anything, it's not going to get done. So it goes right back to what you were saying earlier. Let it go. Start focusing on what's next. Relationship may have not worked. Okay. Loathe in this, in the sadness, loathe in the frustration, loathe in the disappointment for just a short time. But begin to look at, okay, I'm still me. I'm still here. I still have what I have. And that's the appreciation point. That's when you start going, okay, I have a job still. I can get back up. I saw my friends I can reach out to. This is the relationship stuff. And continue. Because at the end of the day, if you sit down, and we talk about this about with rock bottom, if you sit in the rock bottom, you get to choose when you're ready to get out of that rock bottom. And you just keep confronting yourself. And you get tired of confronting yourself, you realize, oh, I gotta do something about this. So sweating the small stuff doesn't really get you anywhere, except it just continues to add stress to your day. It actually makes you more tired. It makes you It just exhausts you. It's a mental versus uh environment kind of situation. You have to realize that where you are, what you're going through is temporary, and that there is a way to get out. If there's a will, there's a way. You just have to find a way to shift your priorities, shift your focus, develop this resilience, cultivate it into your life, communicate with yourself, communicate with the people around you, so that you don't allow the environment around you to dictate how you are going to be and how you're going to respond to
And
situations.
to your point, you have to be willing to be adjustable. You have to be willing. So you can't just look at things and just be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to stay rigid about this thought process, or even in your scenario about like you have things that you have lined up in terms of finances that you have to pay for. So instead of just sitting there and wallowing into self pity, you pick up your second job and you get up and you start just doing things. And I think there's definitely is something that like for example, we're planning a wedding too. We're gonna have a little bit more people at
Congratulations.
ours, and because of yeah, thank you. And because of that, I was just like, okay, so we need to start cutting corners where we can. So it's like, all right, if um, if we're trying to pay for this, we're gonna have to stop eating out as frequently, vacationing as much. We're gonna have to be more stringent on where every single dollar goes. The the Starbucks runs are dropped. The eating like cooked meals versus eating at restaurants is dropped because you think about going to a restaurant, you literally taxes and gratuity and everything. You're now paying like out of pocket for a lot. So it's just making and cutting corners where you can, and just it, at reallocating your focus and reallocating resources in the direction that your life is heading or life is trending.
Right.
And the biggest thing is, and like if truth be told, truth be told, like if we just emptied out like our savings and what we already have, like in terms of like investments and stuff, we could probably pay it outright cash. But I don't see any value in paying for winning outright cash and destroying my savings and stuff when all we have to do is just create a new budget, create a saving plan, and then for the next year and a half, we'll just say, all right, here, this is what we're giving. This is like a monthly stipend to this account. So it doesn't make sense for me to completely take away my savings when I know like the average American can't even afford like a emergency that's $400. So because I don't want to put myself in that compromising situation, I'll make sure that all right, I'll hold on to a little bit extra, and I'll reallocate my resources accordingly, so that way I don't overindulge or overspend or overdo anything, and I can still live in a know comfortable manner, but stringent in terms of where every single dollar goes.
Right.
That was the first thing because I know like I think you highlighted as well. Talking about finances are hard because it's now um, combining two people and two different spending habits, two different mindsets, two different like it's all different. And now you come together under one umbrella and you have to unify everything. The conversations that are hard to have, you have to have. The conversations like, me buying, movies on Amazon Prime, they have to cut back because now I have to reallocate, resources. And, um, you know, just small things in different ways that I can overall meet that goal.
Right.
So that's one thing that like, we're definitely focusing on. And um like when it's pertaining to don't sweat the small stuff, we had to sit down and have a conversation, especially for this wedding. It was just like, what is the most important thing for you, and what is the most important thing for me? And after we bounced ideas back and forth, we agreed that the most important thing for us is to make sure that the people that we want there are there. So, and I said, once we both agreed on it, I said, now, since we want the people that we want there, understand that it's going to be a little bit more pricey. That doesn't mean that we're not capable of doing it. That just means that we're going to have to budget for it.
Right.
And I told her, it's like, to me, the most important thing is my friends, my family, your friends, your family. And if that's the most important thing, then this is what we should and probably need to do. If you agree with me, cool, let's do it. If not, then we can go back to the drawing board. And we both agreed, and now we're trying to make strides in the wedding planning process. And, especially because it's like, I don't stress about like the small stuff like, all right, what are my groomsmen gonna wear and what color this? Yeah, whatever. I don't care. You pick whatever color. I don't even like. I don't even care as long as we have the people there, and that's my main focus. I'm not gonna get upset about anything about like all that other small stuff. I just have to remain focused. And I even think you and I had a conversation last week, and I was just telling you, I was like, yeah, I just got so many different things that I'm juggling, like currently, that I'm not even stressed or I'm not stressed out or upset about, what's being said. I just have to focus on what needs to get done. Because if you start getting distracted with those small things, then you start to neglect your focuses. And when you neglect your focuses, then you don't obtain or reach your goals. And when you don't reach your goals, you go through these cycles of depression and, all this, that, and the other, and it's just not an ideal way of living life. And so for me, I just find that instead of getting upset or sweating like small things that I can't control, I focus on what I can control. I focus on my reactions to things, and I just try to stay consistent.
No, man, I think that's, I mean, what you're saying is something that I feel like, you'd been talking about the wedding, and I think I mentioned this last week. It's definitely, this is where it challenges you, not in a bad way. This is where you and, your spouse have to sit down and figure out what's going to be the compromise and the compatibility, which I think a lot of people have a hard time doing already. So imagine adding in planning a large, for at least for you guys, a very large life event. Well, okay, ours is a lot. It's a huge live event too, but it's like the I'm talking the large part of it is the amount of people, right? So you have
Yeah.
to figure out what
I mean,
makes sense for
yeah, it's
what's that?
still an intimate thing. Uh, it's still an intimate thing for you guys, and it's still an intimate thing for us. It's
It's just
just
different.
on our people. It's just different. That's all.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's what's beautiful, and that's why I don't like to stick to the traditional stuff that everybody wants. And you get to choose your life, and this is where sweating the small stuff kind of unfortunately takes things and can make things great. Like I feel like we stress about the wrong things. I think that's another thing that people do. We stress about the wrong things. We worry about the wrong things, and we don't prioritize things that do need to be stressed about. And stress isn't actually always a bad thing. I think that it actually can be the last resort motivator when things are going all to hey crazy, and it's about, hey, whoa, your body does this naturally too. When there's an emergency or something's happening, your body goes into like a stress mode, but it's you controlling the stress, not the stress controlling you. And so you have to
Right.
understand you can have an accumulation of different things happening, but you just have to know how to keep that composure. I think I kind of talked about that in the beginning, is you're responsible of how you respond or react to a certain incident versus in the environment. And I think that, at the end of the day, when people walk away from their day to day tasks, the day to day accomplishments, when you stress about things that you have no control over, you are wasting time, you're wasting energy, and you don't realize how it's affecting you. My dad always tells me this thing, and he always says, son, you don't know what you don't know. And he would say, you are way too invested in things that you have no control over. There's nothing you can do
Yep.
about it. Sometimes you
Right.
don't know what's going on. You don't know what the outcome's going to be, but all you can do is contribute to how you're going to respond emotionally in a thoughtful way, and to make it a goal each day to be better than you were yesterday. And if as long as
I
you're doing
just
that, I think that that kind of sums up everything really what we're talking about. It's just that I mean, at being 26 now versus I think we were 24.
Not we, you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
wasn't.
no, I was 23 because it's still May. So
Yeah,
it's just, it's all comes back to
the,
the
the best analogy.
realization. What? Go for it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. It
No,
all
no.
comes
I
back.
mean, I just think that including myself as people, we are very good. We focus on negative stuff. We focus on the, oh no, what are we gonna do? We love the stress. We love to be in this sense of this rustle and hustle and
Panic.
bustle kind of thing. But
Yeah.
then it's like, but then you also want to be comfortable. So
Yep.
it's like you got to figure out which one do you want. Do you want to be comfortable or learn to be comfortable, uncomfortable, and handle yourself in certain environments? And when I say environments, I'm not just talking about like being out in the forest or being in the desert. I'm talking about your job, your relationship, at church, at a business meeting, out and about with friends, with yourself in meditation. Like you just have to understand you have to be in control, not allowing the other things around you to be in control. And that would help you be more focused, more content with, excuse me, with your stressors. Because stress is always around us. It's just a matter of the distance that you
And
put
you
yourself
handle it. Yeah.
between stress itself.
Yeah. You're very right. I was smiling earlier, and like I don't know why my brain works the way it does, but it just does. And I was thinking about a movie. I was thinking about Titanic, and I was thinking to myself, we need to be more like Rose. Titanic. It was a very sad movie. I don't know. Have you seen it before?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know if you're gonna remember this. So in the scene where Jack is hanging off the door, he's in the water,
Jack,
and
no.
Rose is on top of the door, and they're holding each other's hands.
Yeah.
And so in that scene, I was just thinking about how we as human beings need to do what Rose did. At some point, even though it's the emotional baggage is it's heavy, it's tough too, but you have to let it go. And you have to let it just sink to the bottom. It's
Jack,
hard.
no.
It's heart wrenching,
Don't leave me,
but you
Jack.
have to let go of that hand, let go of that excess baggage that's holding you down, and you have to let it be and start pivoting and focusing on the new thing because you need to protect yourself. And
Yep.
so she gets the whistle and she finally gets rescued, right? And then fast forward another 20 or 25 years, she comes back with that necklace and she's just like, you know what? She goes back to that time in her life. She's married now. She has kids. She has grandkids. She's in a whole different space. She goes back and she looks fondly on those memories. And even though things didn't work out how it she anticipated them to, she was very appreciative because those experiences helped form the person that she is today. And then she drops that necklace back into the ocean and then she leaves it there. And that's kind of what we need to do more and more of as human beings is we need to let go of those small things that are holding us down, pivot to that next thing, stay focused. And once it's time has passed, you can go back and look with a certain level of fondness and say, wow, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I lived through that. That's amazing. And then you just go from there.
Yeah.
It
Listen,
just
man,
popped in my head and I was just like,
no,
wow.
I like it. I like that. It's a very, very good way to just basically sum up everything that we talked about, man. It's like, I think at the end of the day, if you're stressed, it's only gonna affect you if you let it affect you. And
Yep.
the only reason how I knew that and said that is because I'm looking at my vision or our vision board, and it says it will only affect you if you let it affect you. And it's literally, I think we actually talked about. I don't know if I said it on the show, but it's the Devil's Playground. the devil's playground is the whole, like, you emotionally, mentally get affected, and you allow yourself to get wound up like a wound up toy and go. You remember those little toys that you'll. No? Terrible example?
I don't know what the
It's the
toy is.
little, it's like, okay, it's like you wind up the toy and then it goes. Okay, never mind. I look ridiculous right now. Thank you
Is
very much. But
don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
I know it's okay. Well, it's just like marshmallow stick. We'll stress the small
Yes,
stuff.
no idea what that is either.
Well, it is nice to get on here and talk about things we've talked about in the past. Don't know if it's gonna be similar to what we talked about because it was, just a few years ago, but
It's
I
a little
think
bit
that
different. It's true.
it's a little
You know,
different. A little
the
different.
reason why,
We're engaged, not you and I,
yeah,
obviously, but we're two engaged guys.
well, the reason why I thought it would be cool to kind of go back and touch over those top 10 topics is because it's like, all right, you gave your opinions 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. What do you think now? And just to
Yeah,
kind of see that, like, I don't view things the exact same way. I have components that I still view, but it's
yeah,
a
of
little
course.
different now because I don't sweat the small things when it comes to me, but I sweat the small things when it comes to Abby because I'm just like, all right, I want her happy. I
Correct.
want
So
her to
now you have
be,
another person another person in
yeah,
your life that you have to think about. You have to be, aware of their schedule and be aware of, what's going on in their life and what they have going on. So yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I stress less about my own personal things. There are things as a relationship we stress about
hmm,
together, the small things, and then of course about her. Make sure she's safe. Every day, I make sure she gets to work safe. That's one thing I really like. People drive crazy here in Orlando, so you sweat that small thing to make sure she's okay. She gets to work safely and gets back home, and that's just one of many things. But dude, it is cool that we get to go back in time a little bit and talk about things that people loved hearing us talk about then. Um, as we continue to grow, continue to expand on our horizons, I just hope that for those people who are listening to this today, continue to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of what you've done. Or if you're not proud of what you've done, don't be hard on yourself. This is just a season. Look yourself in the mirror and realize that, you can sweat it or you can just wipe it. Like just what we do with sweat, we wipe it off our bodies and it's gone. And just like if you start working out again, you're going to sweat. And when you stop working out, you stop sweating. And guess what? It's consistent. Every time you go to work out, you most likely are going to sweat. So every time you face a stressful situation, you most likely are going to sweat. But it's just a matter of wiping it away, getting rid of it, knowing it's going to happen, but being mindful of it. And so if
yep,
you're out there being hard on yourself or you're not being hard on yourself, take this time to really just embrace who you are. Look back on how far you've come and realize that, look, life is all about opportunities, new beginnings, new chances, and ultimately be in charge of your emotions and your thoughts. Don't let the stress dictate your day. I think I may have said this in the last episode because I was listening at 2 speed. It was really fast, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned it.
pretty sure.
Don't let a small part of your day make one small section, a 5-minute interaction that pissed you off, make your whole day become a bad day. I think we overuse the word, oh, it's been a bad day. I do it. I say, oh my God, it was such a bad day. In retrospect, no, just a short period of time of the day was bad, but we allow the rest of our day to be bad because that's what we do. We generalize it. So
You
if you're generalizing,
you just threw the whole entire day away instead
yeah,
of highlighting the good parts of it.
the good parts of the day. So I hope that this episode obviously has been impactful. If this is your first time joining us, Adler and I have been, on this mission to generate an impact globally. I think we
Be
recently
that
added a
little
few other
sprinkle of
countries.
positivity in your week. That's what our goal is.
Yes.
To impact you by being that little sprinkle that you need just to stay positive and to go about your week. And I know that you were about to touch on it. Do you mind if I take over from here? Just how to do the
It's all you,
closeout.
bro. It's all you. Take it.
So definitely check us out on YouTube, where this podcast is available. You can watch the video version. You can see how handsome we look because we both have shaved. We're looking clean and cut. Um, or otherwise, you can check us out on Spotify, um, anywhere you
Apple
can find our
Podcasts.
podcasts. Like you can literally go to Apple Podcasts or anything like that. And check us out on Instagram, where it's the Best Nation. I'm specifically at the 24 hours in a day. There's a lot of collaborations between both. It's one and the same. And then also check out TikTok, 24 hours in a day. And we just come out with content that's meant and designed to help you be the best version of yourself. And even if you haven't figured out who that version of yourself is, these are key components to helping you figure that out.
Right.
So that being said, unless there's something else to add, Finn, is there?
No, just
No. Okay.
well, YouTube
He's
comes out
shaking his head
Mondays.
no in case you don't see it. You can't see it.
Check out YouTube on Mondays, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh
Video
yes,
drops
time.
and premieres, and then Tuesday, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It
That's when the
releases everywhere else. Yeah, all the audio
yes.
version, 4K audio is released on those days. I think people are liking the YouTube, and I think that it's definitely cool to be able to have another platform that we get to utilize. So continue to share, let your family and friends know. Just keep being the best version of yourself, and don't sweat the small stuff.
All right. We'll leave it there. You guys take it easy. Have a wonderful week. Peace.
Peace.